This Torah class is brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.
Shem Hashem.
Special treat we have here at this yeshiva, Thai community. Rabbi Glatstein was introduced by a Talmud of mine who was giving me many of his Shiurim from the downloaded online, and I was mesmerized listening to his voluminous Shiurim, which grasped one end of the spectrum to the other in Lumdus and Drush and Pshat and sources from every end of the Jewish spectrum. So anyone who has heard him definitely will be delighted to hear him again. And anyone who has not heard him will be the first Red Hashem of many. Rabbi Glatstein is a Rav in Cedarhurst now, the congregation Avos is Yisrael, and it's supposed to have him.
Unbelievable observations.
Shiva Shlita. I thank the Rosh Yeshiva, Rabbi Singer, and Rabbi Bodenheim for inviting me today. And it's a zechus, and I stand here with great Emas HaTzibur. And usually when I speak for an olam, so I give the shiur. The olam didn't necessarily prepare for the shiur. So you could get away with something because, I prepared, but the olam didn't prepare, but I think the olam prepared an hour and a half already, and so I have extra year on Emas HaTzibur, and it's a great honor to be in this Makom Torah, where the influence of these Dalet Kosei Beis HaMedrash really reverberates all over the state, all over the tri-state, and really all over the world. So I'll tell you a little story. It was the second night of Pesach, and Rav Tzvi Hirsch Halevi Horowitz turns to his two boys, Shmuel Shmelka and Pinchas. These two boys would later turn out to be two great Gedolei Yisrael. Shmuel Shmelka would turn out to be the Rebbe Reb Shmelka, and Pinchas would turn out to be the great Hafla Reb Pinchas Horowitz, the Rebbe, the Chassam Sofer. And he turns to his two boys and he says, "We start Sfiras HaOmer tonight. The Yom Tov of Shavuos is coming. What Masechta do you think we should learn in honor of the upcoming Yom Tov of Shavuos?" So his oldest son, Shmuel Shmelka, turns to his father. He says, "Well, if Shavuos is coming, we should obviously learn Masechta Shavuos." So his father looks at him with a smile. He says, "I hate to break it to you, but Masechta Shavuos is not about the Yom Tov of Shavuos. It's about oaths. It's about swearing." And the kid says, "Tata, I know that. But you told us that at Har Sinai, HaKadosh Baruch Hu was Mashbiah Klal Yisrael. We're Mushba v'oimed mei Har Sinai to keep the Torah. And therefore we have to know the Chaymer of a Shvuah. We have to know the severity of the Shvuah to see how strongly we're bound to keep the Shvuah mei Har Sinai." Plus, he said, Masechta Shavuos has 49 blot. So if we start tonight and we learn a blot a day, we'll finish the Masechta by the time Shavuos comes. Okay, the next year, again, the second night of Pesach, the Rav Tzvi Hirsch turns to his youngest son, Pinchas. He says, "Pinchasol, tell me now that Shavuos is coming, which Masechta do you think we should learn?" He says, "Tata, I think we need to learn two Masechtas." He says, "Which two Masechtas?" Kedushin and Ksubas. Kedushin and Ksubas, what do Kedushin and Ksubas have to do with the Yom Tov of Shavuos? He said, "Tata, you taught us that at Kabbolas Hatorah, the Rebbe Shalom did not just give the Torah to Klal Yisrael, but he formalized the relationship with Klal Yisrael. He made a Kedushin with Klal Yisrael. The Rebbe Shalom married, so to speak, Klal Yisrael, like we say every morning, Ve'irastich li la'olam, that the Rebbe Shalom married Klal Yisrael eternally. When did that Kedushin take place? At Maimon Har Sinai. The Rebbe Shalom was Mekadesh Yisrael al-Yedei Chuppah v'Kedushin. And therefore, Tata, we need to know what are the obligations of Kedushin, what are our chiyuvim. We have to imbibe, we have to feel that the Kedushin is still in effect. We have to know what the chiyuvei ksuba are, the Torah is the ksuba. And therefore, we need to learn Masechta Kedushin and Masechta Ksubas. We say every day when we put on the tefillin, Ve'irastich li la'olam, that the Rebbe Shalom, so to speak, married Klal Yisrael. And what we're going to learn today is not only was Maimon Har Sinai a symbolic wedding, a symbolic chasana, but it wasn't just al pi remez of chasana, But this marriage that the Rebbeinu Shalom was Mekadesh Klal Yisrael is subject to all the halachos and all the lumdis of Kiddushin. I know the Rabbi Bornheim told me the yeshiva learned Masechta Kiddushin this man, so perhaps this will be somewhat of a chazara of some of the yisodos of Masechta Kiddushin. Oh, Ksubis. Okay, so hopefully we'll get in a little bit of both. Yeah. Okay. So if you take a look on your sheets, we begin with the Gemara Masechta Tainus, Daf Chavav Amud Beis. To go to Mishnah. The end of Tainus is commenting on the pasuk in Shiurim. Se'ena ure'ena b'noi Sion b'melech shloimoi b'Hatorah she'itchaloi imoi b'yoyim chasunasai b'yoyim simchas liboi. That there is a day in the Jewish calendar that is considered the chasana that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has with Klal Yisrael. And what is that Yom Chasunasai? Says the Mishnah, Zeh Matan Torah. That Matan Torah is likened to a chasana between Knesset Yisrael and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. In fact, Rashi and Chumash on the pasuk, Vayotzei Moshe es ha'am likras Elokim. Zot Rashi, it's number 3 on your sheets, Parshas Yisroi, Perak Yotes pasuk Yodzayin. Magid shahashchina yatsa likrasam kechasan hayotze likras kala. In my old kehila in Queens, we had a lot of Sfaradim. You know, by the weddings of the Sfaradim, the chasan goes out, mamish down the aisle to greet the kala. Well, says Rashi, Vayotze Moshe es likraso Elokim. The Rebbeinu Shalom was coming toward Klal Yisrael like a chasan, like the pasuk says Hashem mi Sinai ba. He came from Sinai. It doesn't say Vas Sinai. It doesn't say Lis Sinai. In fact, the Kliyakar says, why is the Rebbeinu Shalom coming out to greet Klal Yisrael? Because the Gemara says in Kedushin, Mi mechazar achar mi. Who looks for who? Who searches for who? Who needs whom? The Gemara says, the Chasan, the Baal HaAveda needs his Aveda. The Rebbeinu Shalom, so to speak, is looking for the Kala, is looking for Klal Yisrael. So Rashi is saying very clearly that what took place at Kabbolas Hatorah was a figurative chasana and wedding between the Rebbeinu Shalom and Klal Yisrael. So in fact, the Baal HaTurim says a davar nifla. Says the Baal HaTurim, we know ha'isha niknes b'shloisha drachim, 3 ways to marry a woman, b'kesef, b'shtar, u'b'biyah. So says the Baal HaTurim, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu married Klal Yisrael, not only did he marry us with a kinyan, he married us with all 3 kinyanim. Bekesef, Bishtar, Ubabiyah. First of all, Bekesef, says the Baal HaTurim. What was the Kesef? The Bizas Mitzrayim, the plunders of Mitzrayim, the spoils of Mitzrayim. Says the Baal HaTurim, the Shtar, that's the Torah. Shenemar, Torah, Tziva, Lanu, Moshe, Moirasha, Atikri Moirasha, Ella, Moirasa. And the Biyah, the Pasuk says the Baal HaTurim, Va'efrois, Kanafi, Alecha, Va'avoi, Bevris Itach. So there was some type of concept of Biyah between the Rebbeinu Shalom and Knesset Yisrael. In fact, Baal points out the word Va'avi Eschem Eloi. Va'avi, the Gematria, the Biyah. 3 kinyanim. The Kesef, the Shtar, the Biyah. In fact, says the Baal HaTurim, that's why we say every morning 3 times, Ve'rastichli lo'olam. Ve'rastichli b'tzedek u'mishulchez rachem. Ve'rastichli be'emunah, to denote the 3 facets of the Kedushin, the Kesef, B'shtar, Ubi. In fact, another Baal HaTurim. What's the halacha if a person wants to marry a shvuya, a woman who is held captive? You can't marry her right away. You need to wait 3 months for Havchana. So too, what month was Kabbolas Hatorah? Ba'achodesh hashlishi. It was in the 3rd month. Why the 3rd month? Because Knesset Yisrael was like a shvuya. We were captured. We were kidnapped. We were captive in Mitzrayim. The Rebbeinu Shalom, our Chasan, he wanted to marry us. He had to wait 3 months. Ad hachodesh hashlishi. Says the Baal HaTurim. Okay, so if you just read the words of Rashi, and if you just read the words of the Baal HaTurim, so you say, okay, this is nice drush, this is nice ramazim, nice divrei Torah, but we want to bring out a little bit is that this is not just drush, it's not just ramazim, but it's a kedushin that is subject to all the lumdus and all the halachos of dinei kedushin. Let us begin with none other than the story we started with. We started with the story of Pinchas Horowitz, so maybe we'll get a better understanding why Pinchas Horowitz wanted to learn with his father Masechta Kedushin before the upcoming Yom Tov of Shavuos, the Hafla wrote a sefer on Masechta Kedushin. I'm sure you're familiar, the Sefer Hamakneh, which is one of the classic Svarim on Masechta Kedushin. And he begins his sefer with a classic Hakdama, where he speaks about this idea that when the Rebbe Shem gave the Torah to Klal Yisrael, he married us, mamish, with all the Dinei Kedushin. And Rav Pinchas Horowitz starts off with the following Chakira. Says the Hafla, says the Hamakneh, he wants to know what was the Kesef Kedushin? We traditionally get married with Kesef. What exactly was the Kesef Kedushin? So we already brought down from the Bal HaTurim that the Kesef Kedushin was the Bizas Mitzrayim, the spoils that Klal Yisrael took out of Mitzrayim. Well, says the Hamakneh, take a look at number 7, the left-hand column, the top of the page. He says, Amnam be'inyan ha-Kiddushin nechleku ha-mefarshim. Regarding the Kiddushin, there are various opinions. Yesh oimrim sheha-Kiddushin hayu b'ma shehoitzianu mikur ha-barzo b'rchush gadol. One opinion is, what was the Kiddushin? That Hashem took us out of Mitzrayim with great wealth. Like he quotes the Pasuk in Shiurim, Toirei Zahav Nasa Lach in Nikuda Isakas. So that's the first daya. The Hamakneh doesn't say who the Baal Hadeya is, but we know, we just learned this is the Baal HaTurim Shita. The Kesef Kedushin was the Bizas Mitzrayim. But then the Hamakneh brings out another opinion. V'yesh oimrim sheha Kedushin hayu beluchais habris. Another opinion is that the Kesef Kedushin was the luchais. There's an opinion the luchais were made out of sanperinon, a very valuable stone. Some say the Kesef Kedushin were the luchais. So we have this machlokes. What was the Kesef Kedushin? Was it the Bizas Mitzrayim? Was it the wealth, the spoils, the booty that we took out of Mitzrayim? Or was it the actual luchais themselves? Well, says the Hamakneh, I'm going to chime in on this machlokes, and let me tell you, I'm going to bring a raya that the Kedushin was the luchos themselves. It had to have been the luchos. Why? Well, says the Hamakneh, there's a medrash, and this is a medrash that appears in many places. You have it on your sheets in number 8. A medrash Tanchuma in Parshas Eikev, but it's also a medrash Rabbah in Parshas Kisisa in 2 places. Well, says the medrash the following, that when Moshe Rabbeinu broke the luchos, the Rebbe Shem goes to Klal Yisrael, goes to Moshe Rabbeinu, and he says, Moshe, Asher Shibarta, Yasher Koichacha Sheshibarta. Shkoyach, I give you a groisa shkoyach for breaking the luchos. Why? Because when I took Klal Yisrael out of Mitzrayim, I married them. And when I gave them the luchos, I married them. And for them to go serve the Egel, when Moshe Rabbeinu was still Klal Yisrael serving the Egel was like a Maises Nos. So when you took the luchos and you broke the luchos, you know what you did to the Kedushin? You were mevatel the Kedushin. You nullified the Kedushin. Now, Klal Yisrael's Maisa is akin not to a Penuya Shezinsa, not to a single woman, and not to an Eishes Shezinsa. In other words, now that you broke the luchos, you were mevatel the Kedushin. Now Klal Yisrael is no longer an Eishes Ish. Now they're like a Penuya, so you made them like Penuya Shezinsa, and not like an Eishes Ish Shezinsa. Now that you broke the luchos, you broke the Kedushin, now Klal Yisrael are no longer really married to me, so it's not like a married woman who was Mazana, it's like a Pnuya that was Mazana. Says the Hamakneh, you see very clearly from this medrash, that the Kedushin must have been the luchos. Because if they were already married with the Bizas Mitzrayim from the time they left Mitzrayim, then what good is it for Moshe Rabbeinu to break the luchos? The Kedushin already occurred, the Kedushin was already chal, Kedushin already was effective. The fact that Moshe broke the luchos 40 days later, 50 days later, how does that help? It's not mevatel, the Kedushin already took place. But says Hamakneh, you see from the medrash very clearly that the Kedushin must have been the luchos, and hence when Moshe broke the luchos, he was mevatel the Kedushin. Says the Hamakneh, not so fast. It's not so simple. You're going to say now that the Kedushin was the luchos, so let's think for a moment. You're going to tell me that when the Rebbe Shem gave the luchos to Klal Yisrael, that was the Kedushin, but he didn't give it to every member of Klal Yisrael. He gave it to Moshe Rabbeinu. Then Moshe Rabbeinu must have been what? The shliach on behalf of Klal. Well, we know, if you know Masechta Kedushin, there are two types of shliachim. There's a shliach l'halacha and a shliach l'Kabbolah. The job of a shliach l'halacha is he's merely a delivery boy. But the Kedushin is not effective until the Kedushin actually goes into the hands of the woman. And then there's something called a shliach l'Kabbolah, where the Mekadesh could give the kesef Kedushin to the shliach l'Kabbolah, and as soon as the shliach l'Kabbolah is Mekabel the kesef, wherever the woman may be, she's already married because the shliach l'Kabbolah is accepting the kesef on behalf of the woman. Frek the hamakna. Could you please tell me what type of shliach was Moshe Rabbeinu? Was Moshe Rabbeinu a shliach l'Kabbolah, or was Moshe Rabbeinu a shliach l'halach? If Moshe Rabbeinu is a shliach l'Kabbolah, then the moment that the Rebbeinu Shalom gave the luchos to Moshe Rabbeinu, the Kedushin was already chal, and they're married. And Klal Yisrael was mazaneh, and it's like an Eishes Ish and mazan. So what good does it do for Moshe to break the luchos? They're already married. If a woman takes a ring that her husband gives her, and a day later, or an hour later, she throws it in the garbage, ihi de afsir an afshai. It's her problem, but she's married. It's not about the Kedushin is very chal. So if Moshe is a shliach l'Kabbolah, of what good is it to break the luchos? The Kedushin was already chal. Elamai, Moshe must have been shliach l'halacha. Shliach l'halacha. That means that they weren't married until Moshe physically handed the luchos to Klal Yisrael. So then what does he have to break the luchos for? They weren't married in the first place. They were never married. All he has to do is say, Rebbeinu Shalom, here, take the luchos back. Not yet. It's not an opportune zman. Maybe we could wait for, next zman, after Elul zman. This didn't work out during the summer zman, during Tammuz. They got a little restless during the summer zman. Maybe wait until after the Shabbos Haggadah drasha. So if Moshe Rabbeinu is a shliach l'halacha, what does he have to break the luchos for? Miman avshach. If Moshe is a shliach l'Kabbolah, then breaking the luchos doesn't help. And if he's a shliach l'halacha, he doesn't have to break the luchos. That is the kasha of the Rav Pinchas Horowitz, the Hamakna. Says the Hamakna, tremendous chiddush. What was the Kedushin? Was it the Bizas Mitzrayim? It couldn't have been the Bizas Mitzrayim because we know Moshe Rabbeinu nullified it by breaking the luchos. But it can't be the luchos because Mimanushach is a shliach. Says the Sefer HaMakna, yes. The Kedushin was the Bizas Mitzrayim, and the Kedushin was the giving of the luchos. You can't marry the same woman twice. Says HaMakna had something called Kedushin al Tanai. The Kedushin was the Bizas Mitzrayim. Al Tanai, that when Klal Yisrael gets to Har Sinai 49 days later, and Moshe gives them the luchos, they do it the right way, and they're makabel the Tanoi haluchos. And like the pasuk says, the Kedushin was the Bizas Mitzrayim. Al Minas, the Klal Yisrael will be makabel the luchos properly. Memela, when we left Mitzrayim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu married us. How? With the Bizas Mitzrayim. But the Kedushin was mitli tali b'kai. It was suspended. It was dependent on the acceptance of the luchos. So when Moshe Rabbeinu comes down from Har Sinai and he sees what Klal Yisrael are doing, so what does Moshe Rabbeinu do? He takes the luchos, he breaks the luchos, rendering the Kedushin pasul, nullified batum vatal l'mafreya. Retroactively, it was never a Kedushin to begin with. So when Hashem gives Moshe Rabbeinu mamish a grois shkoyach, that was a nice lomdus how you're mavatal the Kedushin. The Kedushin was chal, but it was dependent, and now Moshe Rabbeinu allowed it that the Tanai should not be in the sky. Now I never said over this part, but here mamish b'nei Torah. Let's see if we could say it clearly. It says the Hafla. This is pshat in when Rebbeinu Shalom tells Moshe Rabbeinu, you're going to have to take Klal Yisrael out of Mitzrayim. Moshe Rabbeinu felt he was not roy. Why? Moshe Rabbeinu said, I'm going to be a shliach? I'm going to be a shliach for you, Rebbeinu Shalom. You're the Mekadesh, you're the Baal, I'm going to be a shliach. I'm not roy to be a shliach. You're telling me that there's shlichus over here? Says Rebbeinu Shalom, I'll prove to you there has to be shlichus. V'zel l'cha ha'ois ki anoichi shalachticha. I'll prove to you there could be shlichus. You know why? Because this is kedushin al tanai, and there's a klal that milsa the lesa b'shlichus lesa b'tanai, milsa lesa b'tanai lesa b'shlichus. That's something that you can make a tanayin. You have to be able to make a shliach. If you can't make a shliach in something, then you're not able to make a tanai. Says Rabbi Glatstein, I'll prove to you you could be a shliach. Because since it's a kedushin al tanai, you can't have a tanai without the ability to make a shliach. So that went over. Says the Hamakna, and we know the Hamakna also wrote a sefer on Chumash. The sefer on Chumash he wrote is the Panamiyah place on Chumash. Basically, everything we're saying is in the Hakdama, the Hamakna. Also, he wrote it in different places in the Panamiyah place on Chumash. He's bothered by the following question. When Aaron HaKohen is making the Egel, so he tried a very interesting technique in fundraising. Usually when people come to make an appeal, what they do is they come and they speak very nicely and they try to convince you that they're doing you a favor and that you're a partner with them. Everybody knows all the tricks, right? And Aaron HaKohen, here's the first fundraising appeal. He's fundraising for the Egel. So what's his big pitch? Lemi Zahav Hisparaku. Who has gold? Who has gold? Oh, here, take it off. Right? Imagine somebody making an appeal. And who has money here? Give me. That's what Aaron HaKohen says. Hisparaku. He should say, Yitena, Hisnadvuna, Hisparaku, take it off. It's like a hold up. It's like Aaron HaKohen he pulled out a gun, said Hisparaku. And also, what's the shaila Lemizahav? Who has money? Who has money? When it came to the Nedavas HaMishkan, it says Marbeha Am Lahavi. They had more than enough money. In fact, they had so much money. Chazal even say like Mayasa Haben Shlo Yechta. They had so much money. What's the big shaila of Aaron HaKohen? Lemizahav. That's like saying going to Newcastle, as they say. Who has coal? Right? You go to the Eskimos. Who has ice? What do you mean Lemizahav? They're loaded. Of course they had gold. Says the Haflah. There's a halacha in Kedushin. In Even Ezer, Simenun, it's number 13 on your sheets. What's the halacha if you marry a woman al Tanai? You say, Hareya Mekadeshes Li Amanas, that you make a good cholent. And comes the first Shabbos. V'loi Niskayim al Tanai. What happens to the money that you gave her? Is she allowed to keep the money? So it says that it's Kapaskin and Shulchan Aruch. The money goes back. Once the kedusha is rendered ineffective, the money goes back. So Aaron HaKohen says, somewhat sarcastically, Lemizav. Who has money? So Klai said, well, we don't have money. All of our money comes from the kedushin. Aaron HaKohen says, you should know that if you have any money, it's not yours anymore, because you're mavato the kedushin lemafreya hisparaku. Give it back. It's gazela. You can't hang on to the money anymore. Says the Hafla, Lemizav hisparaku, invoking the halacha of Even Ezer Simenun. Says the Hafla, all the Mefarshim struggle. V'yikchu li truma, take from me truma, and all the Mefarshim other should say v'yitnu li, you're giving it, you're not taking. What do you mean v'yikchu? Says the Hafla, that when we made the Egel, we were mavato the kedushin, and the money of the kedushin had to be returned. But then Hashem gave us kedusha, a second opportunity, second marriage. Memela, when were we rizoicha to the Bizas Mitzrayim? In other words, when we got the Bizas Mitzrayim the first time, we sort of lost any right to it because we made the Egel. At what point in time were we allowed to reclaim the money that we took out of Mitzrayim? By the Lucha Shniyos, which was accompanied by a tzivur to make the Mishkan. Memela, when Hashem gave them the tzivur to make the Mishkan, Hashem says, V'yikhuli! Now you can take the money for yourselves, because now you have a right to keep it, because now you're Niskayim Atnai, says the Panim Yafas. Okay. So I know you're thinking, I still remember from last man, from before Ksubis, that wait a second. If we're going to take this Kedushin business so seriously, we know that every Kedushin requires, besides Nesinas Kasef, you need Amira. Nasan hu, v'lo yamar hu, eina mekudeshes. So where's the Amira here? Hashem gave the luchos to Moshe Rabbeinu. Where's the Amira? So you say, not a problem. Remember in the beginning, when Parshas Mishpatim, Hashem says to Moshe, Alei Elai Hatorah, v'heyei sham, v'etanolchas luchos ha'emen. The Rebbeinu Shalom tells Moshe Rabbeinu, come up to the mountain, I'll give you the Kedushin. So you have an Amira. Wait a second. So I didn't forget so fast. What's the halacha if a man tells a woman, Harei at mikudeshes li, and she says, yeah, no, and he says, at the right time. And then 40 days later, he bumps into her, and he puts the ring on her finger. Mikudeshes or Eina Mikudeshes? Eina Mikudeshes. You need the Amira to be at the time of the Nesina. So very nice, Hashem told Moshe Rabbeinu at the beginning of the 40 days, but 40 days later, when he comes down with the luchos, there's no Amira. So how does the Kedushin work? It says the Hafla Davar Nifla, an amazing pasuk. Look at number 14, pasuk in Parshas Kisisa. Vayitein el Moshe kechaloisoi ledaber itai. He gave the luchos to Moshe when he finished teaching him the Torah. What's the halacha if you tell a woman, Harei amikudeshes li, and then in between the Amira and the Nesina, you're talking about Inyane Kedusha. Medaber ima aliske Kedusha. We talk about who's going to be the caterer, who's going to be the photographer, who's going to pay for this and for that. You discuss where are we going to live. In other words, the Etzem Amira was 40 days earlier. And in the interim, what you have is Medaber Ima Aliske Kedusha. So then the halacha is, says Rabbi Yossi, Medaber Ima Aliske Kedusha. It's a Gemara Kedushin Da'afav, number 15. Says Rabbi Yossi, Haya Medaber Meisha Aliske Kedusha. Rabbi Yossi Omer, Dayoy, as long as it's Medaber, Me'inyan L'inyan Ba'isai Ha'inyan. So very nice. So the pasuk comes out beautiful. Hashem tells Moshe Rabbeinu, Alei Elai Hatorah, come up to the mountain. Va'edno l'chas haluchos. So you have an Amira. And in the interim 40 days, Rebbeinu Shalom is doing what? He's speaking to Moshe. He's teaching him the Torah. The Torah is B'inyane Kedusha. That's the Ksuba. V'meila, as soon as he finished teaching the Torah to Moshe Rabbeinu, Vayitein el Moshe kechaloisoi ledaber itai. So you have Amira, in the interim. Memela, the Kedushin could work according to Rabbi Yossi. Saying, yeah, but I remember Masech the Kedushin, it's Machlokes. Rabbi Yehuda holds that Medaber Ima Liska Kedusha is not a good Kedushin. So what's the Kedushin according to Rabbi Yehuda? Rabbi Yehuda holds Medaber Ima Eino Mekadesh. So what's Rabbi Yehuda going to say the Kedushin is? Well, says the Hafla, according to Rabbi Yehuda, we need to retract a little bit. And according to Rabbi Yehuda, we need to say that the Kedushin was shtar. What's the shtar? The shtar is the luchos themselves, the Torah itself, where the Kedushin is written. And when you're mekadesh a woman b'shtar, most poskim hold, you don't need Amira. In other words, b'kesef you need Amira. Bishtar, right, the first Rashi on the Mishnah, there's a lot of talk on Rashi in the Mishnah in the beginning of Kedushin. Many poskim hold you don't need Amir. So Rabbi Yehuda is going to have to hold the Kedushin was shtar. And what about the Amira? You don't need Amira with Kedushin shtar. Says Asa Hafla, there's still another problem. Because we paskin that shtar has to be written midaita. A get does not have, has to be written lishma, v'shaloi midaita. A get has to be written for the woman, but the woman doesn't have to know about it. A shtar we hold has to be written midaita. So you say, okay, maybe Klal Yisrael were aware that the Rebbeinu Shalom was writing it. Wait a second. Parak Hey, Perkei Avos, this week's parak. When were the luchos written? The luchos were one of the 10 things that were written, Bein Hashmashos, of the first Erev Shabbos. Klal Yisrael, they weren't aware that the Rebbeinu Shalom was chiseling out the luchos for them. So the star was written Shalom Yidaitam. So maybe the star should be possible. How could you say, according to Rabbi Yehuda, the Kedushin is Kedushay star, and it's okay because you don't need an Amir by star, but the star was written Shalom Yidaitam. So here is where the Haflah's Kabbalistic influence comes in. Says the Haflah, if the Zohar says that the Neshamas of Klal Yisrael were present at Maimon Har Sinai, even our Neshamas, then L'chayra they're also present at Brias HaOlam. At the time that Rebbeinu Shalom was chiseling out those luchos, we were all there, we were all present, and it was considered that the star was written Midaita. I'll point out another amazing chiddush from the Megillah HaMukos. What's the halacha? If you tell a woman, Hareyat Mikudeshes b'tabazu Kedas Moshe Yisrael. Mikudeshes? Oh, yeah, no Mikudeshes. Ain't no Mikudeshes. Why? What do you leave out? Leave! You said, behold, you are married. Married to who? You say, well, it's not rocket science. They're the only two people sitting in the room. No! It has to be muchach, not from the situation, but from your words. Yodayim she'enon moichichos lehavi yodayim. The words themselves need to be speaking that he is marrying her, and not he's marrying her off to somebody else. So, says the Megillah HaMukos, that's why the Rebbeinu Shalom says to Klal Yisrael, V'yisem li segula, V'yisem lashon of makish havaya li yitzia, V'yisem li. Why li? Yadayim meichichos. Says the Megillah HaMukos, that's why Verastich li li'olam, Verastich li, Verastich li be'emuna, Yadayim meichichos havin yadayim. By the way, the Nesiv Hashem also points out there are 3 li's in the Chumash. The pasuk says V'yatem tiyu li, V'yisem li, ki li kol ha'aretz. Also keneged the 3 li's of Erastich li lo'im. Okay, Rabbi Sai. So now here we have it. We have Kedushin. What was the Kedushin? Kedushin al Tanai. The Kedushin was with the Bizas Mitzrayim. Al Manas Klal Yisrael would be Mekabel the Luchas. Moshe Rabbeinu comes down, he sees we're serving the Egel, he breaks the Luchos, he renders the Kedushin Bato L'Mafreya. What about the Nesuin? What was the Chuppah? What was the Chuppah? So again, we'll take a look at the Hamakneh, number 20 on your sheets. The Chuppah, says the Hamakneh, also a Machlokes. Says the Hamakneh, Yeshoimrim, Shahaya al Yedei Shakaf Alim Har Kagigas. Shotgun wedding, as they say. You know what the Nesuin was? You know what the chuppah was? The beautiful chuppah of Kaf Alim Har Kagigas. Very inspiring wedding, right? That was the chuppah. It wasn't just, that was the canopy Kaf Alim Har Kagigas. However, the Hamakneh says, there's the opinion of the Marsha. The Marsha in the Sechta Ksubis, that you just learned, Avzayin Amid Beis, says the Marsha, the chuppah was yichud. What was the yichud? The yichud shechina in the Mishkan. So we have 2 opinions. One opinion was the chuppah was kaf aleim har kegigas, and one opinion was that it was the yichud shechina in the Mishkan. Says the Hamakneh, you have to say that the chuppah was kaf aleim har kegigas. Why? So listen carefully. Klal Yisrael is serving the Egel. Moshe Rabbeinu comes down with the luchos. He sees Klal Yisrael serving the Egel. So what does he do? He takes the Egel, he grinds it up, vayidchanos arashar dak, vayashkes b'nei Yisrael, he gives it to drink. Says Rashi, in the name of the Gemara, what kind of concoction is water mixed with the Egel? Who would want to drink that? Says Rashi, Niskavim lebodkam kesoitos. Moshe Rabbeinu is checking Klal Yisrael like a soita. Meaning, Klal Yisrael were married to Rebbeinu Shalom. We had infidelity to our Baal by serving the Egel. Mamela, Moshe was checking Klal Yisrael like a soita. Frek the Hamakneh. Wait a second. Doesn't the Gemara tell us about the Saita waters? Masechta Kedushin, Daf Chav Zayin Amud Beis. There's only one requirement of drinking the Saita waters. You need to be a Nesua and not an Arusa. Nesua is Shaisais, Arusa is Loi Shaisais. Frekta Hamakna. If you're going to say like the Marsha, and that the Nesuin didn't happen until we made the Mishkan, Mamela at the time of the Chedoya were only in Arusa. So how can Moshe Rabbeinu give Klal Yisrael to drink from the Saita waters? Arusais Loi Shaisais. It must be, not only were they Arusais, they must have been Nesuais Gamkein, and that must have taken place at the time of the Kaf Aleim HaKagigas, and Mamela, Moshe Rabbeinu was able to check them like a Saita. But if you're going to say like the Marsha, what was Moshe Rabbeinu doing? Giving them the Saita waters. Says Hamakna, there's a glaring problem over here. Ready for this? Problem. Big problem. Didn't Moshe Rabbeinu, when he came down from Har Sinai, he took the luchos, he broke the luchos. What happened to the Kedushin? It was Nizbatel Lamafreya. What's the halacha if a woman does Kedushin, and then does Nesuin, and then retroactively the Kedushin wasn't Chal? She ain't married, she has no iris, and there's no Nesuin, there's nothing. The Kedushin's off. So Moshe Rabbeinu is Niskavein Levad Kam Kisaitais. Why? Because you're going to say, not like the Marsha, that the Nesuin was Kafal Markagigas. Nesuin can't be effective if there's no Kedushin. And the Kedushin was ready Nizbatel and Afreya with the breaking of the Luchais. So what's Moshe Rabbeinu doing? Giving them to drink from the Saita waters. There's no Kedushin, there's no Nesuin. Baruch Hashem for Rav Huna. I'm sure you remember Rav Huna on Daf Hey. What's the sheet of Rav Huna? Rav Huna holds Chuppah is not just Goimer, Chuppah is Kaina also. Chuppah is bang, Kedushin and Nesuin B'Vasachas. Memela, even though Moshe Rabbeinu was Nezbatel, the Kedushin L'Mafreya, that was the Kedushin of the Bizas Mitzrayim, which was Toloi on the Kabbolas Haluchas. Fine. But the Kafa Aleim Har Kagigas, which was Chuppah, according to Rav Huna, was not only Chuppah, was Kedushin also. And Mamela Moshe Rabbeinu was able to check them like a cycle. What would we do without Rav Huna? So I know you're thinking, Rav Huna, we don't pass them like Rav Huna. We pass them Chuppah Goimer, Chuppah is not Koine. So why was Moshe Rabbeinu passing like Rav Huna? I mean, that should be a pretty big endorsement for Rav Huna, right? Rav Huna should come to the Beis Medrash. You know, I have a great raya. They said, what's the raya? Moshe Rabbeinu paskins like me, because the fact that he was Neskavin Laboid Kum Kesoita, that means he holds the Chuppah was Goimer and Koina. Says the Hafla, this type of Chuppah, everyone would agree to Rav Huna that this type of Chuppah is Goimer and Koina. Why is that? Listen carefully. Why does Rav Huna hold that Chuppah could make Nesuin and Kedushin? Rav Huna makes a Kabbalah. If Kesef Shtarim Biyah, which can't be Goimer, could be Koine. Kesef Shtarim Biyah could make Kedushin, but can't make Nesuin. Chuppah, which could make Nesuin, Kal V'chomer could also make Kedushin. That's Rav Huna's Kabbalah. Why don't we hold like Rav Huna? Because the Gemara says, Mal Kesef Shtaru Biyah, Sheken Yeshnon Bal Karchach. That you can't say that Chuppah is better than Kesef Shtaru Biyah, because Chuppah can't be Bal Karchach. But Kesef Shtaru Biyah have the ability in certain instances to be Bal Karchach. Memela, that's a Pircha on the Kabbalah. That's why we don't hold like Rav Huna. Says the Hamakne, that's why we don't hold like Rav Huna. But if somebody could drum up a Chuppah that does work Bal Karchach, then the Kal V'chomer is reinstated. You know who came up with a Chuppah that works Bal Karchach? Ribbon Shalom. Kaf Aleim Har Kagigas. Memela, this Kal V'chomer is immune to the Pircha that we ask on Rav Huna, and this kind of Chuppah, everybody would agree. Not only could it be Goimer, it could be Koine as well, says the Hamakna. What? I hear it's a good ha'ar. Yeah, the Gemara never said, Chuppah also, right? It was a Hayrasha. Okay. Rabbi say, I want to share with you one very lumdish question from Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz on this whole binyan of the Hamakna. Now, Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz is marich with many, many cheshbonos built upon this binyan of the Hamakna. He has many different questions. I just want to share with you one question. Frekt Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz, this he brings in his Sefer Avas Yonasan, which is a commentary on the Hatorahs of the Parshas. This is for the Hatorah of Parshas V'Haloischa, the Hatorah right before the Yom Tov of Shavuos, sometimes. Well, excuse me, the Hatorah of Parshas Bamidbar. Parshas Bamidbar. He says like this. Hafla, he calls my mechutin, he's mechutin with the hafla. He says, beautiful cheshben, the only thing is, it's wrong. There's one person who doesn't agree with it. And who's that? The Rebbeinu Shalom. How do we know the Rebbeinu Shalom doesn't agree with it? Because I get it. Moshe Rabbeinu gave them to drink from the waters of the Egel, because Moshe Rabbeinu held like Rav Huna, that this Nesuin, since it's Bal Karchach, it does the Nesuin and it does the Kedushin, and therefore Moshe Rabbeinu was able to check them like a sword. But Hashem obviously did not agree. How do we know Hashem did not agree? Because when Moshe Rabbeinu came down with the Luchais and he broke the Luchais, Hashem said to Moshe, Yasher koichacha, shkoyach. You made them like a pnuya that was mezana and not like an eishasesh. Pnuya that's mezana. Just because Moshe Rabbeinu was mavatel, the kedushin of the Bizas Mitzrayim, but the kedushin of the Kaf Aleim Har Kegigos is still standing. It must be the Rebbeinu Shalom did not buy into this shir. It must be the Rebbeinu Shalom held that this Kaf Aleim Har Kegigos was also not effective, was also problematic. So why was Moshe Rabbeinu niskabin lebadkam kesoitos? He thought they were married. The Rebbeinu Shalom told him, Yasher koichacha, they're not married. So it's Moshe Rabbeinu giving them the sight. So you say Moshe disagreed with Hashem. Loi b'shamayim he. It's effective Yonasan Eibeshitz, but still, we know the Soita waters were effective. Why were the Soita waters effective? If Klape Shmaya Galia, they were talking not married, and they were talking like a Pnuya Shazin. That's the kasha of Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz. It's a long day, in many hours. I'll let you ponder that question. Okay, I want to move on a little bit further, just a little bit more on the Lamdus, but B'derach Drush. I want to turn your attention for briefly to the introduction to the Hakdama, the Sefer Shas Tshuvas Beis Ephraim. Shas Tshuvas Beis Ephraim was written by Rabbi Ephraim Zalman Margolius, a contemporary of the Chassam Sofer. He was very close to the Chassam Sofer, contemporary of the Shagas Aryeh. In fact, the Chassam Sofer writes about Rabbi Ephraim Zalman Margolius in very glowing terms. Rabbi Ephraim Zalman Margolius, Chassam Sofer says, Ashrei kahala doscha shekacha lohem lehanois miziv shchinascha. He says, fortunate is your kehila who are nene from your shchina. Ephraim Zalman Margolius was also a wealthy man. And he wrote Shas Tshuvas, what the Ephraim Zalman Margolius is most well known for is the Matei Ephraim on Hilchos Yom Noram. And he also dedicates his introduction to Chelek Eben Oezer, to this whole Hafla, and Rabbi Yonasan Eibeshitz. And he's bothered by the following question. When we make the bracha on Erisin, we say, Al Ha'arayos, right? V'azos Harusa, Yezilon, V'hitter lanu as hanasuos lanu, Al Yedei, Chuppah, V'kiddushin. Right? Chuppah. Not chuppah. It's milra. Chuppah, V'kiddushin. Baruch Atah Hashem, Mekadesh, Amo Yisrael Al Yedei. You know, when I grew up, everybody says chuppah. Chuppah. There's no word. It's chuppah. It's a shuruk. And I say, no, come on, nobody says that. I once heard somebody went over to Rav Moshe. You know, people say, is it moidim? There's no word moidim. It's a chirik malay. He says, no, nobody says that. Who talks like that? That's not yeshivish. So he went to Rav Moshe. They said to Rav Moshe, is it Moedim or Moedim? Rav Moshe said, are you Jewish? Of course it's Moedim. It's a Chirik Malay. Anyway, it's Chuppah v'Kiddushin. In case it's relevant. Okay, so, but it is Moedim anachnu lo. Frek the B'shas Jews Beis Ephraim. Why do we say it out of order? Al Yedei Chuppah v'Kiddushin. Maybe in Chelm they do Chuppah and then Kiddushin. We do Kiddushin, first you do Kiddushin, and then Chuppah, Erison, and then Yisur. What do you mean, Al Yedei Chuppah v'Kiddushin? So you say, obviously you have to say that, because the end of the bracha is Baruch Atah Hashem HaKadosh, Amo Yisrael, Yedei Chuppah v'Kiddushin. Well, Hagufa, why do we end off the bracha like that? Says the Hamakneh, because when you say the words Baruch Atah Hashem, Mekadesh, Amo Yisrael, Yedei Chuppah v'Kiddushin, it's not the pshat, blessed are you Hashem, that you gave Klal Yisrael the mitzvah of Chuppah v'Kiddushin. It's Baruch Atah Hashem, blessed are you Hashem, Mekadesh Amo Yisrael. You married Klal Yisrael. How? With Chuppah and Kiddushin. Says the Beis Ephraim, did Hashem marry us out of order? Al Yedei Chuppah v'Kiddushin? Absolutely. Based on the Hamakna, now we understand the Lashon of the Bracha. Hashem tried to marry us with the Bizas Mitzrayim al Manas that we've been Makabel Luchas. But Moshe Rabbeinu took the Luchas and he broke them, which was Mavata the Kedushin Lemafreya. Then Hashem did Kaf Aleim Har Kegigis, which was the Chuppah, but we don't have Kedushin. Then the Rebbeinu Shalom did Kedushin again with Luchas Shniyos. So the relationship that Hashem forged with Klal Yisrael is first Chuppah and then Kiddushin. And therefore, in order to commemorate that, it was eternally memorialized in every Birchas Eros in Mekadesh, Amo Yisrael, Al Yedei Chuppah v'Kiddushin. Says the Beis Ephraim, now finally we have Pshat in the Bracha, he says, V'hu Kaftar, V'ferach, V'ezras Hashem Yisbarach. Now just point out, Hatorah, this doesn't really fit into what the Hamakna said. Because the Hamakna really said that the Chuppah did both. So really both were having some. But maybe Al Pi Darkoi Shel Hamakna, it's an explanation for Mekadesh Amo Yisrael Al Yedei Chuppah v'Kiddushin. Rabbi said we learned how this Kiddushin, the marriage between Rebbeinu Shalom and Knesset Yisrael, is subject to all the lumdus of Dinei Kiddushin. I just want to point out that not only is it subject to all the lumdus of Dinei Kiddushin, but really all the halachos of Kiddushin and all the minhagei Kiddushin really are sourced in Kabbolas Hatorah. So I want to draw your attention to the Sefer Tashbeitz. The Tashbeitz was written by the Talmud of the Maram Meir Rutenberg. The Maram Meir Rutenberg was, of course, the Rebbe of the Rosh, who was imprisoned in a castle in Einzisheim. And while he was in prison there, the authorities allowed his Talmidim to come in. One of them was Rabbeinu Shimshon Bar Yitzchak, the Tashbeitz. And in prison, the Maram Meir Rutenberg taught the Tashbeitz 590 Piskei Dinim, which are recorded in the Sefer Tashbeitz Katan. And Tashbeitz says an amazing thing. In Ois Taf Samach Dalet, it's number 30 on your sheet. He says in the name of Rabbi Rotenberg that we find many places in the Torah that HaKadosh Baruch Hu married Klal Yisrael Al Yidei Chuppah v'Kiddushin. And therefore, everything that takes place at a Yiddish chasana must resemble Kabbolas Hatorah. Number one, the chasan. What does he say to the Kala? Harei at Mekudeshes Li, beginning with the Ois Hey. Why the Ois Hey? Keneged Chamisha Chumshei Torah. The Ksuba, he says, begins with the Ois Beis, Be'echad B'Shabbos. Why? Because the Torah begins with the Ois Beis. Says the Tashbeitz. Why are there Sheva brachos? Why not 8? Why not 6? Keneged the Zayin Koilois that Klal Yisrael heard on our Sinai, Kol Hashem Ba'Koyach, Kol Hashem Ba'Hodar, Kol Hashem Shor Ba'Rozim, and so on. How many times do you mention the Shem Hashem in the Sheva Brachos? 14 times. Keneged the Yud Dalet Azkaros in the Yasser Sadibros. Says the Tashbetz. Why is a ksuba 50 shkalim? Keneged the Nun Yoim between Yitzias Mitzrayim and Kabbolas Hatorah. In fact, the Arizal writes a remez. Lohitziacha es ha'om Mitzrayim ta'av dun ta'avoid nun. There are 50 days. That's why ksuba is 50 shkalim. This is an amazing thing. I never knew this. Minhag Yisrael, Chassan and Kala fast the day of their wedding. Why? Why? Mehechi tesu. Doesn't say in the Gemara. Why do they fast? Says the Tashbetz in the name of Rami Rutenberg. Because the day of Kabbolas Hatorah, Klal Yisrael fasted. But the Makar is Rami Rutenberg. Klal Yisrael fasted at Kabbolas Hatorah, and therefore Chassan and Kala fast. Why do you need a minyan for Sheva Brachos? Minyan? It's a Davar Sheva Kedusha? It's Kriyas HaTorah? It's Baruch Hu? Why do you need a minyan? 10 times in Tanakh, Klal Yisrael is called a Kala to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You need 10 people connected that by Sheva Brachos. Why do people juggle fire? Keneged Koilos Ubrakim of Maimon Har Sinai, says the Tashbetz. And he ends off with an amazing thing. He says, Nekoit Hai Klala Biyadecha. Take this rule in your hand. The end of number 30. Kol HaMinhagim Shel Chasan V'Shel Kala Anu L'Meidin Mimatan Torah. Every custom of marriage we learn out from Har Sinai. Shahashem Hayamare Atzmai Kechasan Neged Kala Shehem Yisrael. A chasana is just a replica of Maimon Har Sinai. The Gemara in Yevamos, Daf Samach Gimel, gives some advice to getting married. No, sometimes it's hard for the chasan to, take the plunge. Says the Gemara some advice. Nechois darga v'nosavitza. Take a step down and get married. Sometimes the chasan, I can't. It's beneath my dignity. Says the Gemara, no. Take a step down. Marry somebody beneath your dignity, because the truth is, you're beneath her dignity. But we'll just tell you, Nechais Darga and V'nosavitz. Interesting. Tamei HaMinhagim brings down, what's the Makar? Nechais Darga V'nosavitz. So why do you have to settle? Why do you have to settle? Says the Tamei HaMinhagim. Because what's the paradigm of marriage? Rebbeinu Shalom marrying Klal Yisrael. Rebbeinu Shalom settled for us. He settled. So that's the paradigm. Nechais darga. V'nosavitz. Tamei HaMinhagim brings down. What's the trup on the word Vayered Hashem al Har Sinai? Darga severe. Go down a darga. Nechais darga v'nosavitza. There's amazing Yushalmi. Yushalmi says like this. Yushalmi says, it's okay, 5 minutes? Yushalmi says that by the karbonos of all the Yomim Tovim, it says chatas. Shiurim lechatas. Except by Shavuos, it just says Shiurim. Doesn't say the word chatas. It says Yushalmi. Should have it on your sheet here. And number 33. Thank you. It's a Yushalmi in Rosh Hashanah. By all the karbonos, it says chet. By Shavuos, it doesn't say chet, just Shiurim lechatas. Says Yushalmi. Omar lehen HaKadosh Baruch Hu, mikivan shekibaltem aleichem ol Torah, I consider it as if you never did an Aveira. You don't need a chatas. Comes the Yom Tov of Shavuos, the Karban Aida says, the Noisha says, every year we'll makabel the Torah new. When we're makabel the Torah, Hashem says, you don't need a Karban chatas. It's as if you never sinned. So I was bothered by this. I understand Kabbolas Hatorah is a big schus. I get it. But that all of our Averos should be niskaper? Since when a person's makabel the Torah, is that a reason for the Rebbeinu Shalom to wipe out Averos without tshuva? Or even with tshuva? What's the inyan? What's the Yushalmi saying? Since you're makabel upon yourself the oil Torah, you don't need a karban chatas when it comes to Shavuos. What's the mechanism over here? What's the Yushalmi saying that you don't need a karban chatas when it comes to Shavuos? So it could be, I think Rabbi Yitzchak Raditchev says a similar thought. The mechanism over here is that we know there are three people who the Rebbeinu Shalom is mechaper their avonos. One of them is a chasan or kala. The concept of Kabbolas Hatorah is that every year comes the Yom Tov of Shavuos, where Makabel Torah again, we so to speak reenact the wedding, we reenact the marriage. Says Rebbeinu Shalom, I view it again as if you're my kala every Shavuos, and I'm mechaper all of your avonos. The mechanism here is, like Rashi tells us in Chumash, Vayikach es basmas bas Yishmael, and Rashi points out that elsewhere she's called Machalas, that a kala and a chasan are one of the three people that the Rebbeinu Shalom is mechaper their avonos. Perhaps this is the mechanism of what the Yerushalmi is speaking about, that every year on Shavuos, since you're mekabel upon yourself the old Torah, it's a reenactment of the chasana, a reenactment of the wedding, and the Rebbeinu Shalom views it as if ki'ilu loichatascham miyameichem. You know, it's interesting, by the Sfaradim, so we lein akdamos on the first day of Shavuos. The Sfaradim have a pismoin called Haksuba that they say. It's written by Rabbi Yisrael Najara, the author of Karibain, which literally is the ksuba between Knesset Yisrael and the Rebbeinu Shalom, and it incorporates all of these psukim. Ve'rastich li la'olam, incorporates the psukim of Uviyam Chasunasai. So this is an added dimension of the Yom Tov of Shavuos. It's not only Rebbeinu Shalom gave us this body of halacha, a body of law, but there is a yachas, there's a tremendous relationship that was forged. It's ve'irastich li la'olam. It's an eternal wedding. It's an eternal marriage. It's a kedushin. That's why in the bracha right before Kriya Shema, Birchas Hatorah before Kriya Shema is Ahava Rabbah or Ahavas Olam. Why? It's about the Torah. Yeah, but the Torah is a kedushin. It's a ve'irastich li la'olam. So if I were to ask you, if you had to sum up the Yom Tov of Shavuos in 2 words, how do you sum it up? So we would say, we're not on the magic, we're not capable of encapsulating the whole Yom Tov in 2 words. You need Anshe Knesset Hagdolah. Well, let's see how the Anshe Knesset Hagdolah encapsulate the Yom Tov of Shavuos. We know that in the beginning of the Tefillah for the Shalosh Regalim, Ata v'chartanu mikol ha'amim, v'havta isanu, v'ratzisa banu. Ata v'chartanu mikol ha'amim, says the Goyin, says the only Goyin. Ata v'chartanu mikol ha'amim is Pesach. That captures the essence of Pesach. The Rebbeinu Shalom took us out of Mitzrayim, and He selected us to be His chosen people. Ata v'chartanu mikol ha'amim. Sukkos is v'ratzisa banu. After the Chet HaEgel, on Yom Kippur, Rebbeinu Shalom forgave us, but we hadn't yet reached the level of Ritzui, the level that we reached before the Chet. Sukkos, with the return of the Ananei HaKavod, that's encapsulated in the words V'ratzisa banu. And what's the Yom Tov of Shavuos? Ahavta oisam. Anshe Knesset Hagdolah sum up the Yom Tov of Shavuos in 2 words. Ahavta oisam. That's what Shavuos is. Not just Rebbeinu Shalom gave us an oil. It's Ahavta oisam. The Rebbeinu Shalom was Mekadesh Klal Yisrael. The Kesef, the Shtar, the Biyah, the Chuppah. It was Ve'rastich li la'olam. The Yom Tov of Shavuos, the Arizal writes, we're counting up to a Yom of Chasana. It's like a woman counting up to her Chasana. She counts. According to some, she even makes a bracha and she says the Sfira. Okay, we're not knowing that way in general by an Isha, but we are knowing that way by the great Chasana of Kabbolas Hatorah. So, let me be the first to wish everybody Mazel Tov, upcoming wedding, and Mirz Hashem, the chuppah should be B'shah Tova u'Metzlachas, and we should be Zoicha on the Yom Tov of Shavuos to have a little bit of a hargosha for these words of Chazal, Ahavta Isanu. I wish everybody a Chag Kosher v'Sameach. Thank you so much for listening.
You've just experienced another Torah class brought to you by TorahAnytime.com.